Hi and welcome to How to Use CAD. We're still doing detailed sections, so for today's tutorial we're going to create a detailed section for a timber framed wall suitable for a new build home or a house extension. By the end of the lesson you will have a far better idea of the elements that go into a timber framed wall, and you should be able to create your own detailed section for a timber framed wall. Okay, we're a little bit more organized today. So we're doing a detailed section for a timber framed wall, and I've got most of the components here. I've also got editorial prepared on another screen, which I can copy and paste from in a little bit. So the idea is to get the lesson, condense it a little, and not waste your time really, just to give you the details reasonably as quickly as possible. So what we're building is a stud wall, which is effectively 150 wide. So a lot of the normal stud walls would be built with 4x2. This is effectively what's known as 6x2. And we start off with a couple of sole plates, and one of those, or there's two of them there, is a 150 by 50. So you put two of those one on top of each other, and that's what we call a sole plate. And on top of that goes insulation. Now insulation in this one is 120 and 120 Celotex. So we can put it a little bit to one side, about there. Right, so you've effectively built your wall. So what we do is we'll drag a line up. That's your wall. We're not putting the header plates in this time. I could do, but I guess we're not. Be a nice idea maybe for another video. But right, so let's try and line this up. Keep it nice and neat. There we go. Right, so you've got your stud work. Your stud work is built. You've got your sole plates, or floor plates as they're commonly called. Then what we need is plywood. So this is basically to represent your plywood. We need to cover with, let's see, I think it's on the plywood. This is the outside, by the way, on the exterior. So 12 mil plywood would get the job done. So let's see if we can get this into place here. So I'm spacing things out so it doesn't look one big lump of black by the time we're done. Right, okay, so recap: sole plates, stud timbers 150 by 50, 120 of Celotex insulation inside, covered with 12 mil ply. Well, all of this will be written up in a few minutes, but just talking you through it and getting it very familiar. Now what we want is a vapor barrier there, which is effectively a sheet. So, oh, snapping. Right, so the vapor barrier demonstrated just a single line. I might thicken it up. That's your vapor barrier. After that we want 50 mil batten. Here we go. across a bit more. Right, should we fill the batten? Let's see if we can get a fill for that. Bup, bup, bup. Let's change the scale. Okay, that's your fill. I think we'll grey it down a bit rather than having it completely black. Okay, so insulation, stud, insulation, plywood, DPC, or not DPC, vapor barrier, 50mm stud, and on top of the stud we're going to render. So we render, let's see, one of these, yeah. Yeah, you can see it's live. I'm not editing that out. Right, this is our rendering. Tidy up the bottoms in a minute. Now what I need is my graphical representation of rendering. Let's take this one. This is why I keep this here. Generally when we're making up the detailed sections, you know, you can take out one or two bits and you can cannibalize other detailed sections, so you're not making everything from scratch. It's a bit like using blocks, which is quite useful. So now bring that in a bit, see what that looks like. Okay, that's your rendering. Just getting something wrong here. Problem is when you cannibalize, there you go, that's what I was trying to achieve. When you cannibalize, sometimes you're bringing bits over that perhaps you didn't want to. Right, so we get it. The two black lines here is for the stud work. The Celotex insulation is 120. Got marine ply 12mm. Got a vapor barrier. You got a 50mm batten, which you don't need to insulate. Right, so on the inside, what have we got? On the inside, normally you have, again, we need insulation here on the inside, just straight onto the board. Now, we also need another wall board on the inside, so let's see the best way of doing this. Here I prepared insulation. It's effectively an insulation with a wall board attached. It's done in one. Right, let's get our that should be demonstrated together, simply because it's one unit rather than separate. Yeah, sometimes, as I say, it looks quite confusing, but that's just me putting it together. No, seriously, it can look quite confusing, but it generally all comes together when it's written up. They look fine. Right, let's gonna have to stretch this one down a bit. Good, and this one needs to go up a touch. Also up a touch. Batten up a touch. I think this is nerdy work. Do you agree? Take off my snaps again, just for a moment. Right, that's about it actually. Don't need that one. So what have we got? We have insulated plasterboard, or call it what you want, but it's plasterboard with insulation. It's you buy it in one unit. We got the stud work, we got the insulation within the stud work, we've got marine ply 12mm, we got a vapor barrier, we got a stud, and we got stainless steel lats, which is then rendered over. Okay, I think we've got the unit. So now let's add some descriptions to it. These I did a bit of copying and pasting earlier, and you'll see in a moment, because I'm now going to take information from this other little notepad, and I'm effectively going to copy and paste these bits of info in. And I might have to double them up, as in turn them into 2 lines rather than 1 if we're starting to run out of space. Let's bring this down so I know it's here. It's roughly in the center. Dearie me. Trying to put this one in the center, which I think it more or less is. Right, so let's make these. I've numbered them, so it'll help when I go to put them together. Bringing text in is fine. Long chunks of text, that's fine. You can use the multi-text if when we've got loads of text to put in. There'll be one big chunk of text. But for these small ones, I like to operate with for these small little bits of text, I like to use just regular text within the CAD program, as in, instead of going multi-line. As I say, we can always turn that into 2 or 3 lines if I need to. So if you're doing it from scratch, you know, where you actually have to write all this up and put it together, then the video will end up being a few hours long, and we don't really need that. So as I said, I've done the donkey work, so now it's and of course when you go to do this on your own CAD package, then you know, you can improvise a little, as long as you communicate what it is, and it doesn't matter what the style is or how you do it, as long as building control, because at the end of the day, building control are the ones that are going to get these detailed sections, and as long as they show and show the builder and building control, as long as you can communicate that design. They say, okay, these are the building regs, these are the building codes, this is what we're going to do with this wall, this is how we're going to build it. Getting lots of news this morning. Right, well, I don't bother turning off the notifications because I then forget to turn them on, so we just live with it. Right, these are all our notes, and so that looks pretty ugly at the moment. So what we're going to do is a simple way of shortening them up. So if we go with how about that? This one will be drain cavity. Where am I doing it on drained? This one on vapor. This one we can get away with. We'll do this one on width. Next one's fine, and then it's at 400. Okay, get rid of this for a minute. Now, what goes where? So if I put all of these here for a moment, and right, this can be here. Battens, that's fine. There's a reason they're numbered. Proved breathable membrane, that's fine, that's your vapor barrier. So if you're, if you're quite young and you're basically starting out your career as an architectural designer, a lot of these words and phrases will be gibberish, meaning you've never heard them before. You just check I'm doing this right. 12mm Vereen ply. Yeah, so don't be daunted by all the things you don't know, because gradually they'll become familiar. So studs, we can go on the other side now. Yeah, gradually these things will become familiar, and you get through repetition. So we'll get get the same line here. Actually, I won't, because I'm going to be spreading those a little bit more. So that's 5. Then we need wallboard with vapor check. Reference to the timbers. That's the sawn timber in the center. last one. Sole plates. I'll need this one here. Right, so I'm going to spread these out a bit, just kind of even them up, or leave them so. I think leave them so. Happy with that one. Now let's check this one. These again, we can spread them out, bring them all down a bit, because they're all describing vertical elements rather than a horizontal element. It means that, yeah, bring them down, and the reasoning is we have a larger editorial to go in this area. So by bringing them down, we'll be able to get the larger editorial. Now for the larger editorial, I've got a multi-text box here. So maybe I didn't need it. I could have just created it. I think this is a multi-text. Soon find out. Yeah, it is a multi-text, and yeah, the reason I'm using one as against creating a new one is I didn't want to have to format it again, and by that I mean what have we got here now? Hey, I think we will end up formatting it. As like I said before, this is the problem when you bring in elements from another source. So let me get rid of that and do a new multi-text. You bring in elements from another source, you've forgotten or you don't know what they were used for. So the end result is when you, like here, copy and paste, instead of it doing what it's supposed to do, it ends up not wrapping. Right, so all of this is Segio, and the size is 40, and the color is black. Right, so now I'm going to have to stretch this out a little. Oops. That's what I do find that is a little bit of a nuisance sometimes, is that you have to deselect in order to stretch. Maybe they might change that at some point. So I could stretch this over perhaps a little bit more, which will reduce the height. Let's see how that looks. Looks a little bulky, but it can't be helped. We need the information in there. Yeah. In fact, yeah, it's quite interesting. That can be as it is up here. So don't forget, we still need to put in this little black ball everywhere. So we're going to have to do a few of those. A little bit of copy and paste going on here. So we need about 6 or 8, so I might as well set that up. Place them here, I guess. And then we just take them. So there's no line for that, but they're stainless steel. Right, so the stainless steel lat will go to the back of the render, and if I just go like so, there we go. And then we want to render itself. So maybe need to bring that over. Demonstrate it that way. It's all trial and error. There's no single one way is right. It's whatever you feel is appropriate, as long as you communicate it. So this is the batten. If you've never built a timber frame wall before, how are you supposed to know? So yeah, head down to B&Q or Selco, get some timber and go build one. Now that's one way of learning. Right, breathable membrane having a vapor barrier. Well, the breathable membrane is here, and that goes on top of the plywood. So if you, where did I go? Yeah, here we go. You can tell this is live, that's for sure. Right. Yeah, if you haven't done detailed sections before, and this is your first encounter, yeah, it must be quite interesting, because as a designer, you're going to have to learn how to do this. This is part of your job. Right, so that's that side done. Now this side. Again, if I can, this is studs filled with Celotex. Then in the middle here. We're not too far off, so another few minutes and we'll be wrapped up. Looking good. And we just check everything to make sure we haven't made any huge errors. Wall board. That's your wall board. And treated studs. So the treated stud would be, let's get the line in first. So I generally take off snaps when I'm doing this, otherwise I'll be all over the place. It'll be snapping to left, right and center. So it's a good idea to remove your snaps so you have kind of dead lines. Now, sole plates, again, easy enough. So if I work backwards on this one, I've got one left over. I do that and then I end up a mile away. I'm sure that happens to all of us. One day someone would say, Tom, all you got to do is hold that down and it doesn't happen, and then I will learn. So if you know of a way to stop that happening, then when you pick something up and disappear 10 miles away, by all means tell me, just leave a message. Right, so let's make this look a little bit more attractive. A few cosmetic bits now, so we don't need any of that. That's gone. we've actually done our detailed section here, but I'm a little bit, let me just take this out for a second, because I have a feeling we can bring it all down a bit. I'm trying to create a bit more space for the editorial. Yeah, that's okay. Right, what about a few decorative elements now? Well, we got to do the decorative elements. This is why I brought this piece in. That's why I brought that section into this work, so that we could add a few bits of design or aesthetics to the drawing. Now, get rid of that. I'll just run a little line up, put on snaps and run a little line up for there. Okay, and what about at the bottom? Are we doing a bit at the bottom, or have I left myself? Yeah, I left myself a little thin here, but I think I can do one there. I usually pop a little cross in, again purely decorative, but it's almost like a trademark. Right, now we are a little bit too low, so I have to go back up again. In fact, I could go like so, couldn't I? And then make this, give this more space. So what do you reckon? We'd be here all day going back and forth. It's nice to have this element in the center, isn't it? So shall I rewind back a bit? And just go up with it. Right. What do you reckon? We happy with that? We have to check it through now, but I think that's it. That's the detail section. So let me just clear the workspace. And this is our detail section for a timber framed wall. Now, timber framed walls, everyone's interested in that at the moment, because it's a much cheaper way of building than conventional block work and brickwork. And I can tell you now, they're much warmer as well. They're really, really warm rooms. So if you are adding an extension or looking at a new build, then I would seriously consider using the timber frame, because it's really quick to install, it's really warm, and it's very cost effective. Right, so I got my editorial here, which is standard for the timber frame wall. That's basically building regs. So what are we doing here now? Render applied to stainless steel, that's that. Battens, yes. Approval, oh, I didn't have a little ball for the I didn't do a little ball. What's the matter, Tom? You're being mean. I need to put a little ball there. Because it goes on top of the ply. That's fine. Plywood, other approved. Sole plates, treated sawn timber. Yeah, that's the 6x2. Wall board. Top of a little bit of 25mm Celotex. Studs. I'm good. I'm happy. So let's just look at that again. That's it, we're done. That's your detail section. Now all our detail sections are going to be on detailsections.co.uk, and you'll be able to download there in PDF or in CAD, DWG, isn't it? The native file, so you can put them into any of the CAD programs. So the shop is, or the detail section shop is pretty bare at the moment. We've just basically set it up, and we'll be adding perhaps 1,000 or so detail sections there over the next year, and they'll be available for everybody, from designers to builders and homeowners, whoever wants them. But that's where they're going, and looking at this, I can see that this will look a little bit better. I take it down. That's what it's all about. Right, thank you for joining me on this tutorial for a timber framed wall. I hope you got great value out of it, and I suggest you most certainly get your CAD package out and do your own and see how it works out. Alright, brilliant. Great having you. Don't forget to subscribe and you get notifications on each video. We're going to be doing, like I say, hundreds over the next year on and putting them up on YouTube. So yeah, it's as I say, subscribe and you'll get notified so that you can follow them through. Brilliant. Thanks for joining us. See you on the next video.